This is John Colo with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, we're going to go back in time to 2025, August 2025, when I spoke at the 2025 Texas Fruit Festival. The Texas Fruit Festival is probably my favorite event all year. I love to see the crew down in Austin. They're just so warm, inviting, and friendly. Dave and everybody that helps to put that event on is so amazing. If you guys want to see my video where I review the event, 2024, link down below where you guys can learn more about the Texas Fruit Festival. That being said, they are doing it again this year. So mark your calendars for April 30th to May 3rd. They're doing the 2026 Texas Fruit Festival again. And this is going to be the lowest cost fruit festival you can attend in the US, if not the world. They're going to provide basically food from open to close. Some fruit festivals basically only provide food during the meal periods, but the Texas Fruit Festival has basically the fruit table out running all day. And then in the evening, they put out some salads for you guys to grab to eat. This is just one completely amazing event, and they've even expanded it. This is the biggest Texas Fruit Festival ever. They're going to have over 24 different speakers, including myself, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is probably the best mix of different speakers, so you guys can learn all about how to eat a raw vegan diet as healthily as possible. And of course, every year I go to the Texas Fruit Festival, I am always satisfied with the fruit. There's always that one or two fruits that they actually have that they actually source locally, and working directly with some of the farmers in Mexico, because that's where, Austin is quite near the border down over there. And they basically work with some of the distributors that import the fruit. And actually, thanks to me, Dave is kind of going to the produce terminal down there to score some of the best fruit in the area. So I'm really looking forward to the fruit that they're going to score this year. I think the first year I really loved the bananas. This last year, I forget what I love, but they always do good on the fruit for me personally, So, and they have a full transparency model, which I definitely approve of. They will have a listing of all the different fruits that are organic, conventional, and if they are treated with any other kind of method, such as irradiation, so that you guys can choose the fruit that you want to eat without hiding it behind closed doors and having all the fruit in a cooler and then nobody able to, or the vegetables in a cooler, not being able to see what is being served. So if you guys want to learn more about the 2026 Texas Fruit Festival, check them out at texasfruitfestival.com. And when you guys buy your ticket, use my coupon code OKRaw. That'll save you guys 10% off your ticket price. I really hope to see you guys there. This will be the first raw vegan event for 2026, and probably, in my opinion, the best one, because they've expanded to 4 days. Formerly it was like a weekend, 2 days. So Dave's taking a big jump. And in the past, Dave doesn't do this for the money. He's not making a profit. Matter of fact, last couple of years, he's actually taken a loss putting this event on. So, show your love and show up for the Texas Fruit Festival. They try to make accommodations very affordable for you guys. And hope to see you guys there. It's gonna be one amazing event, and can't wait to see the crew down in Austin. All right, so the presentation I gave last year at the Texas Fruit Festival, and I always try to look at who's coming to the event and how can I best serve the people coming. And in many cases, I think how can I serve people is basically trying to share what I've learned over my 30-year raw vegan journey. I've been to the School of Hard Knocks. I've seen and learned a lot of things that other raw vegans that just basically keep repeating their same message, which is great and to some extent. But, I also keep up with the science and knowledge. Also, of course, I'm a gardener, grow my own food, started a farm in Puerto Rico, and I'm here to basically share everything that I can with you so that you don't have to go through the School of Hard Knocks, and you can basically up your game, improve your raw vegan health, improve your diet by not even necessarily changing the food you're eating, but changing different aspects about it. For example, you could be eating all the right food, but still be doing it wrong. And that's what I'll be showing you guys in this presentation today. In addition, I once again share my 30 years of wisdom that may not correspond with what some of the other raw food teachers teach. And this is all right. We need to embrace the differences instead of fight the differences, right? And maybe you're not open to some of the things I say, but some of the other things I say are gonna be quite valuable, and probably some of the most valuable things you may learn, because I also, find out what I learned and then try to keep improving over time, it's a constant and never-ending improvement model that I work by. Of course, I also am a gardener, and literally by just changing one thing about how you eat the food, you can up your nutrition by 50% or even more by, once again, these small changes. And in this presentation, I'll be sharing with you guys not just 1 or 2 tips, but a lot of my tips that are weaved in to this 1.5 to 2 hour presentation. Also want to give it up to Dave because Dave does not schedule people 1 hour back to back. He basically does offset. So he schedules 1 hour here, and then the next hour is empty in that room, and then he has something else going on in the other room. And so that way I had to have a nice Q&A session with everybody that wanted to hang out for a little bit afterwards. So yeah, props up to Texas Fruit Festival. They run a tight ship, and I want to see you guys there in 2026. Anyways, on with this episode.
Please go warm welcome to John Fuller.
Thank you, Dave. All right. Oh, so I'm not going to use a mic. Can everybody hear me? All right, good. Thank you. I hate mics. All right, so thank you, Dave, for having me, and thank you for having this amazing fruit festival here in Texas. I'm so glad to be here and sharing my knowledge with you guys. Oh, and I have a handout, so you could take one and then pass it along, because I'm going to share a lot of information with you guys, and I don't want you guys to like miss out on anything. So I've actually had a handout for you guys instead of like you having to go to a website or anything. And of course, I also have many videos online, like over, 4,000 videos, I think now, covering various different topics, including gardening, the equipment, which I love a lot, and also, of course, eating a nutrient-dense, plant-based, minimally processed diet that's mostly raw for me anyways. So the first question I have is, I like to always get to know my audience a little bit, so then I could cater my talk to meet your guys' needs a little bit. How many people in here are 100% raw vegan, like no cooked food at all? All right, awesome. That's great. So you guys could leave. You guys don't need any what I'm talking about. I'm here for the rest of you guys. No. All right, so yeah, I live my life like 99.9% raw vegan for 25 years. Then I made some minor modifications, and I'm gonna, the word is minor there, minor. And I'll be sharing that with you in my talk. And the other question is, how many people have followed me online and watched my videos already before? All right, good. A high percentage, but not everybody. All right, so I want to give you guys a brief story. Much like Dr. Sam, I was having some health challenges when I was younger, and I had spinal meningitis when I was in my 20s, and I was hospitalized. It was the viral version of spinal meningitis, so the doctors had no treatment or cure for me, so I was literally hospitalized, and I asked the doctor, when will I get out of here? And he's like, you might not make it out of here, and that's like, no matter when that happens in your life, that's a scary place to be, whereas like, this could be the end of your life, like right here, right now. So that really was like a big wake-up call to me. I thought about like, hey, I'm sick right now, I might not make it out alive. And then I thought about like, man, I didn't even get to make all this money that I'm supposed to make, because like everybody in society is like, we're focused on like making money, which is like supposed to be the goal. But as Dr. Sam talked about earlier, health is our greatest wealth. And I never really realized this until I got sick and almost lost what I learned to be the most valuable thing to me in the world, not any amount of money, because even if I had $1 million, I couldn't write the check, Mr. Doctor, $1 million. Void unless John walks out of here alive. He had no treatment for me. So that really like set some, ideas in my mind that like, wow, health is my greatest wealth. And if I do get out of here, I need to figure out how to preserve my health and live as healthy as possible so that this does not happen again. Of course, I also had, prayed or whatever you want to call it. And I had like a download that like, hey, if I get out of here, I will live my life in service and share with others what I learned so that I could be healthy, because I want to give back. Because I thought about, if we're really not supposed to be focused on like making money in our life, like what are we supposed to do with our lives? Well, and to me, it like was like live in service. And of course, yes, unfortunately, money is important in the society as it is set up, that I'm not in complete agreement with, but everybody needs to make a living as well. But for me, it's very important to live in service, and that's why for the last 16 years, I put out at least a minimum of 3 videos a week on each of my YouTube channels. So I have literally a wealth of knowledge that is available 24/7 for free without joining any subscription or any community that you guys could all watch. If you're interested, I've dove into many different discussion topics, just myself and also with many of my friends that I've accumulated in the raw foods movement over the many years. I also visit plenty of gardeners and farms where I learn a lot from them and share that about, some of the best techniques to grow the most nutrient dense foods. And then of course, also I've been an equipment geek and I love the different processing equipment, selling juicers and blenders. Since I started my diet in 1995, I started selling the equipment in 1998 to help other people kind of like get through all the marketing BS that's out there and share with people like the best machine for you, because the best machine for me may not be the best machine for you, but I will say that the machines have made a huge difference in my life, although they may not be necessary. So yeah, that's my basic story. And ever since I started back in 1995, my goal has always been, hey, how can I improve and how can I get better? I learned from Tony Robbins, the principle of CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. And this is so important because, a lot of people in this space and even just in the general world, like they learn what they learn and that's what they know, and then that's what they continue to share for the next 20, 30, 40 years, even though, science is always changing. We are always learning new things about how the human body works and the microbiome and all these things. So I really try to stay up to date with some of the science and bring in the science plus my experience, plus other people's experiences, and then that's basically what comes out in some of my videos. And I try to do this as best as possible, even if I'm making one small change today. That one small change I make today, over a lifetime, over a year, can add up to be a lot. And that's actually the focus of my talk. My talk is called Next Level Raw: Unlocking the Hidden Power of Fruits and Vegetables. And I'm not really going to talk about like what you'd eat, but I'm a very practical guy, and I've been living my last 30 years like doing this every single day. And then like over the years, I've learned like little tips and techniques that have accelerated me to take me a little further along in my health journey and create a higher level of health. And that's what I want to share with you guys today. So a lot of you guys, some of these things that I'm going to share, maybe you guys already are aware of and you are doing, but maybe a lot of them you guys are not aware about and not doing. Some of them you may think, oh, John's full of BS when he's telling me this, and that's cool because maybe you're not ready for that specific message in that thing I'll be talking about, the principle or whatever belief that I have. But maybe, I want to plant a seed because maybe one day you'll like go back, oh yeah, that talk that John gave at Texas Fruit Festival, he talked about that. And then that's when you're investigating this particular subject. And then you can think back, oh yeah, that crazy guy John, he said this, and I'm finding that to be true. Or maybe you'll find it to be not be true, but whatever it is, I'm just here to help you guys along in your journey to like kind of take you up a notch, because, I believe a notch up and just taking you to the next step. And then, the next step and the next step, you're going to get to where you need to be. And the other thing I've seen a lot in the raw foods movement is that people will plateau. So, you're going to get to a place where like maybe you're sick. You're totally sick and you're eating standard American diet, and then you just go on a juice fast, a fruit juice fast. Dare I say that, which I don't recommend. And then you get better and you're thinking, the fruit juice healed me. Well, the fruit juice your body healed itself, really, number one. Number two, you're also healed because you stopped doing all the standard American diet and all the junk food, right? And then now you got in some good food or some juice that did help you and assist your body to heal. So we shouldn't just make the assumption now, oh, juice is so healthy, I'm just going to stick with juice for the rest of my life, or whether you're just going on a fruit-only diet for the rest of your life because that healed you at the time. What that did was that brought your health level up to the point that your body could compensate and then heal itself. Right? But then what I see in the raw foods movement so much is that people plateau to a certain point. You get to a certain point, you get to a pretty good level of health, but then you're just stagnating. And then in some cases, depending on your style raw vegan diet and what you're doing, your health may start declining, going back down again. And then that to me is an indicator that what can we do to kind of bring that level up and get to the next level, the next plateau. And that's literally what I'm going to share with you guys. All these things I've learned over the years to kind of take me up a level to try to attain the best level of health that I can. So we'll start off, everybody has a handout. There's a few core principles that I could start with. And the easiest one, I'm going to kind of jump through these pretty quick. Some of them I might spend a little bit more time on, but they're pretty self-evident. Number one is follow multiple teachers and be discerning. I know Don Bennett also discussed this. I don't know everything. I mean, I don't think nobody knows everything except maybe God, higher powers who we believe in. But it's very important because there'll be conflicting knowledge in this space that we're in. And so I think if, you know, a lot of people like have the same answer for the question, then that may be the true answer. And then you want to also be discerning with what you're believing. The next is no one size approach fits all. And that's very important, right? Just because a high fruit diet works for this singular, isolated case study person doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. Because I know a lot of people will idolize certain people that eat an all fruit diet and want to inspire to be like them. And for them, it works. But for, you know, many others that I've seen in the past, it doesn't work. So we all are different, and you need to adjust to your body and make adjustments according to you. This one's very important to me. Don't just trust on feeling great. I want you guys to get evidence that you're doing well. You know, getting blood tests, working with a natural doctor or medical doctor or people within the movement that do blood tests and can diagnose them for you and see where you are maybe not doing so great. I've also gotten things like microbiome tests, and I have that publicly available on my YouTube channel. If you're interested, they basically will tell you the kind of bacteria that you have living inside you, and that was really an eye-opener for me. And you know, there's a whole new side of healing people with basically just changing what they're eating, because what you're eating is going to influence your microbiome. Of course, if you're eating a standard American diet, too many animal foods, that's going to really wreck your microbiome. I'm glad to say a raw food diet will better your microbiome than like a standard American diet, but you know, I believe you could even take it further. Every microbiome test that I've seen from my over 20-year long-term raw vegan friends have not been as high or as good as I thought it would be if the raw vegan diet was optimal. That being said, I do have some friends that haven't been doing raw vegan at over 20 years, and their microbiomes are pretty good. And it's not just the raw vegan diet, it's like what are the specific things you're doing on your raw vegan diet, including the breathing, like Dr. Sam talked about, including the sleep, including the exercise, including your connection to nature, but also very importantly, including, you know, what kind of foods are you eating? Because in raw vegan, I mean, we think a lot about like, we're going to eat the foods that are easiest for us to digest, you know, which I would agree. Fruits are super easy to digest. There's no reason to juice them. That's why I do end up juicing my vegetables, because they're a bit more difficult to digest, especially things like carrots, especially if you don't chew them that well. But we could digest and absorb nutrients from certain foods. But the thing that people fail to realize is that the food that we don't digest goes to our microbiome. Then it literally is our second digestive system, and it digests food and then creates secondary metabolites such as acetate, propionate, and butyrate. And one of the things I've seen in raw vegan, long-term raw vegan microbiome tests is that they generally have they're producing low butyrate, which is very important for long-term health. Another thing I'll say, and this may be controversial in this space, supplements can be helpful. I know there's some raw vegans that say, you know, supplements are not natural and we shouldn't take them, but once again, I think the number one way to know is if you test. If you test and you need a supplement, then take it. I do take some supplements just in case, such as vitamin B12, also vitamin D, depending on the time of year. I also take an EPA DHA supplement. But yeah, we live in an unnatural world and we're eating unnatural food, which I might talk about a little bit more. I mean, you're like, oh, watermelon, John, is natural. Well, I was hiking with Dave actually in Las Vegas, and we saw like these wild watermelons that are actually toxic. Then they're just growing wild, but these are more wild foods. I mean, these ones like missing the seeds, they're not quite as, you know, natural as they should be. So, you know, that's why I think supplements can be definitely really important, especially based on the foods that people are eating in our modern world. So the product that I've taken in the past that I've done testing on, because I did before, I got blood testing before I took the supplement, then I took the supplement, then I did blood testing after to see like the difference in my blood levels. I think I tested vitamin B12 and vitamin D. It's a supplement called Complement. So I'll have a video on that on my OK Raw channel if you're interested. Next thing I'll say can also be controversial in our raw food space is that doctors can be your friend. You know, I know a lot of people want to do the anti-doctor thing and say all doctors are bad. You know, what I would say is that, you know, a lot of doctors are not educated properly about true health, and they're, you know, trying to, you know, put a Band-Aid over a problem. And so we shouldn't just automatically just say all doctors are bad and never see the doctor. I've had raw vegan friends that refuse to see the doctor and then they end up losing their life. You know, when there's a chronic situation that a doctor actually could assist and help in. I recently just interviewed a friend of mine that I've known for probably like at least maybe 8 years. And like I made a video when I first met him, he had healed himself from prostate cancer on a raw vegan diet. His name is Dave Gill in Las Vegas, Nevada. And then basically I learned about 3 years ago, he's like, John, the cancer came back. I kind of like lost touch with him. And then I just came from his house like literally about a week before I came to this event, and he got over cancer, beat prostate cancer for a second time. And the difference he did this time, because he was trying all the natural stuff, it wasn't working. He ended up going to the doctors, seeing the doctors, and he was very resistant, and it almost cost him his life. But then finally he accepted, like, I think he takes 3 drugs coupled with his lifestyle and diet, and he's healthier than ever now. So like, we have to just think critically about these things and not just say, oh, doctors are bad. You got to find one that's going to work with you and be smart about it and all these things. Now, another core principle I have that is unfortunately not talked about a lot is I want you guys to maximize your phytonutrient intake. What are phytonutrients? Phytonutrients are basically the plant chemicals that the plant makes based on its DNA and how it protects itself from the environment, from the sun, from the stressors, and all these things. And these are the properties, one of the most important properties. I mean, there's many properties in food, but according to some of the research I've seen, it's some of the most important components of the plants that give us the health benefits, such as the anthocyanins in blueberries. That's why blueberries are purple. Such as the lycopene in things like tomatoes and watermelon, such as the beta carotene in carrots, and you could even get into chalcones. That's a unique yellow sap that is bled out when you cut. My ashitaba, which is in like the celery family, and that has a lot of different properties, published studies on the benefits. So my goal is to like literally flood my body with as many phytonutrients as I can. And when of course I'm eating the foods with all these phytonutrients, it's also coming with things like fiber, right? Things like vitamins and minerals, just common nutrients, things like some calories, right? Some fat. It's just coming with all those common nutrients as well. And unfortunately, there's a lot of raw vegan diets I see there that are very phytonutrient poor. And my belief and what I've observed is that people eating a more phytonutrient poor diet may not have as good a health as somebody that's eating a higher phytonutrient rich diet. I mean, glucosinolates and things and other properties, sulfur compounds in brassica family plants, like the broccoli, like the arugula, like the bok choy, and also in the allium family plants have been proven in science to be like anti-cancer. And I know some people will just avoid these foods completely, which, you know, I completely respect. But me, on the other hand, I encourage you guys to eat those often and regularly. So it comes down to, what do I eat? And then how can you maximize the specific foods you're eating? This is very important and near and dear to my heart. Because even if you're just eating watermelon, the watermelon you're choosing to eat could be more or less nutritious. If you're just going to the store, you'll never know how good quality it is. I mean, actually, we'll test this watermelon right here. So I have what's called a BRIX meter. And this is a BRIX meter. Basically, I'll read off what it says. It says, within a given species of plant, the crop with a higher refractive index, or BRIX, will have a higher sugar content, higher mineral content, higher protein content, and greater specific gravity or density. This adds up to a sweeter tasting, more minerally nutritious food with lower nitrate and water content, lower freezing point, and better storage attributes. So this company did a test. It's Hybrix Gardens, Industrial Ag Labs, and they basically grew green beans. So they grew green beans in a garden that weren't even totally optimal, and then they bought store-bought green beans. And when they tested the BRIX on the grocery store beans were 4.2, the garden beans were 6.1, the dry matter was 8.1, it was 16.6, the pH was 6.4 on the garden beans, and the pH on the grocery store beans were 5.5. That being said, you should have guys all came to Dr. Sam's talk where he talked about pH in the food. It's not as important to breathing, so you could ask Dr. Sam about that later. And then anyways, when you taste the grocery store beans that have a 4.2 BRIX, it tasted like garbage, which unfortunately, because I've tasted a lot of good fruit, a lot of fruit to me tastes like not so good, like garbage. And then, on the garden beans, it tasted decent. So the whole thing is that the BRIX meter will give you a reference point I'll say you don't even need a BRIX meter. You could buy one of these on Amazon. They're like $20 if you really want to geek out like I do on these things. But you really don't need these because our taste buds are our BRIX indicators. We could tell if something's good or not. The problem is if you've never had good tasting fruit or high quality fruit, you don't know what good is. I mean, I've got in arguments with past girlfriends before that like, she's like, this is a good peach. I'm like, this is not a good peach. And that's like, and I mean, obviously I had been doing this a little bit longer than her and have gotten really good peaches and stuff. And I'm like, let's test it. And of course, it wasn't a good peach, you know, and I'm kind of like practical like that, but maybe for her it was, right? But she didn't have the same reference points as I do. And that's why I think tools like this can help you create a reference point. So when you do have some good fruit, wow, that was an amazing grape. You could test it and like, oh my gosh, this grape's like 28 on the BRIX scale. It's insane, right? And otherwise you'll like think, oh, the grapes from the store, which is like the table grapes, which I despise, you know, they don't really have a good flavor for me. They might be kind of sweet, right? I'm from Sonoma County wine country in California, and they have wine grapes that actually have the seeds, that have more nutrition, and that taste way more amazing because the flavors of the wine grapes basically get fermented, and that's why the wines taste so good. The high sugar content converts into alcohol, which is what wine drinkers want, but then the flavor of the grapes makes the flavor of the wine. So we should just be eating the wine grapes, which unfortunately you can't buy because everybody wants table grapes and that's what they end up selling, which is terrible. So how will you know if something is good BRIX if you never tasted it before, tasted something good? Well, they have a standardized chart here with most common vegetables. So for example, we're just gonna go down to watermelons today. So poor watermelon is 8. An average watermelon will read 12. A good watermelon will read 14. And an excellent watermelon will read 16. So what would you guys all estimate these watermelons that we've been getting served here at the fruit festival is? All right, so let's see, are they, yeah, just call out the numbers.
Mangoes will be top.
Mangoes will be top.
I don't know.
Bottom. All right, so I'm getting numbers all over the place. Now, I have been kicked out of fruit festivals before, unfortunately, for BRIX testing their fruit and making a video about it. But I didn't just do that one time and then, get kicked out. I basically told the person that organized the event like 5 years in a row, like, hey, you're calling this a fruit festival. We should really try to strive to raise up the fruit quality. Here's some ways to do it. And every year they didn't do it, and then I made the video. So then I get what I get because I'm trying to improve everybody's life, their diet, their happiness when eating fruits. And I'm getting rejected. So I'm telling the truth. I'm glad Dave is open to me sharing all this information and always trying to improve. I've actually, I help coach him to where to get the produce. And I want to give a round of applause for Dave. He drove, I think, several hours, like to the produce terminal. He bought 6,000 pounds of fruit, which I told him, like, that's probably, he probably bought about double as much as I recommended, so I'll probably have about half as much left. But he's gone through so much to make this event happen. So I appreciate him so much.
11,000 pounds.
What is it?
We counted it. It was like 11,000.
Oh, 11,000. Okay, wow, even more. All right, so what we're gonna do to measure the BRIX, all you're gonna have to do is you're gonna take a piece of fruit and you're just gonna squeeze out the juice. So, I mean, on a watermelon, obviously it's pretty easy. We're just gonna put some juice on this little blue space here. Then we're gonna close the lid, and then we're gonna look up to the light, and then I'm gonna go ahead and dial it in. And so this is about 9.5. So we'll send this around so everybody can see and see what the BRIX meter looks like. We'll start over on this side. And then, every fruit may be a little different. But in general, if it's like from the same grower, picked at the same time, they're generally going to be within a few points of each other, right?
So what was the?
Yeah. So the scale is a poor watermelon is 8, an average watermelon is 12, a good watermelon is 14, an excellent watermelon is 16. So I will basically say that this is 9.5. This watermelon could be improved. So the thing to do, the real thing to do is, like when you go buy fruit, I mean, you could just get out your BRIX meter every time and test it. And I did this for a while, and then some places would get mad, actually, especially at farmers markets. So don't do that. But like the other thing you could do is if you have a reference point, you could just taste it and know like this is not a good watermelon. So like what I'd say, you know, for home or even for like a large event like this, if like Dave brought a BRIX meter, or I told one of the things I told him was like, before you buy the fruit, sample one piece so you know how good it is, and then you can make the decision choice like, should you buy this or not? And Whole Foods, I mean, they used to do this, I don't know, since they got bought out by Amazon, you could ask the produce guy at Whole Foods, like, hey, can I try a sample of this? And before they're owned by Whole Foods, by Amazon, I know they would actually be obligated to cut it open and let you try it. So then you could like, you know, but of course, I mean, a lot of stores, you could buy the produce and then you taste it, it tastes garbage, bring it back and get a refund on it, right? That's a little bit of extra work, but I mean, these are the ways if you're just buying industrial grown produce,
Looking at the word
you're seeing the differential. So it's all like, it goes from white and then it goes into the blue.
Okay.
And besides the differential part, when I send that around, it'll go from literally like white to blue instead of black and white. The other thing you want to look for is at that demarcation line, you want to look for cloudiness. When the demarcation line has some cloudiness, that generally means there's a little bit more mineral content in that food. And you know, like Don Bennett talked about, you know, industrial farmers are generally adding 3 main minerals, but they can add up to 16 minerals that are required for plant growth. Meanwhile, you know, I add up to 90 minerals in my garden through things like rock dust and through ocean solids. But yeah, so anyways, the goal is to source higher quality produce. If you have an awareness of the produce quality, then you could source it higher. So the question is, how can you source higher quality produce? Well, maybe you could go to a different store. You could get a different brand of watermelon that has a different brand sticker. Maybe you'll find, oh, that sticker with that brand always tastes good. Like right now they have the California Keep mangoes that are being sold at Whole Foods that are organic, that those mangoes are generally like they're some of the best mangoes that you could get all year in the store because they're not hot water dipped or irradiated like many of the mangoes you may buy. The other thing, of course, is to go to farmers markets and visit farms near you. I mean, I went to the farmers market. I went to 2 farmers market yesterday before the event, and I was really sad to see that there's more like vendors selling like meat than any other farmer's market I've ever been to. And there's like, the only fruits I found there, like sweet fruits, was like, there's a couple people selling watermelon and one person selling apples. So I was like, man, it would kind of I wouldn't be doing good if I lived here. You'd have to have your own trees, but yet I've had friends at this event, you know, give me like persimmons straight off their tree that were some of the best fruit I've had so far since I've been here. So, I mean, growing your own food is super important. But yeah, if you can't grow your own food, minimally support local farmers and ask them questions and get to know their growing process. Generally, they're going to have higher quality food than you know, just buying at the grocery store. And of course, I also encourage everybody to buy organic in general, but not always. Organic will be more nutritious than conventionally grown produce, and not to mention that it's more nutritious because, you know, generally if they're not spraying, then the plants will have to make more of the plant phytochemicals to defend itself from the environment, from stressors, from pests and whatnot. You know, then conventionally grown stuff that's like highly sprayed, not to say that organic stuff can also be sprayed, but the main thing is also when you're eating organic, you're not getting man-made chemicals, and especially things like insecticides that are usually like nervous system toxins, and that's how they usually kill the bugs. So it also, in my opinion, will affect our nervous system as well. And if you want to write your questions down and hold all questions to the end, I will definitely have a Q&A at the end. And I encourage everybody to avoid industrial agriculture as much as possible. I mean, I know Don Bennett said, oh, John grows like 100% of his food. So like I grow like almost 100% of the leafy greens and vegetables I eat. And also this changes depending on the time of year and what garden I'm in. I mean, there's days where I could grow 100% of what I'm eating because I'm eating my vegetables and fruits out of my garden. In my Las Vegas garden, I have like a lot of fig trees, so I can make meals out of figs and some kumquats. In my California garden, I have many more fruit trees and other vegetable plants. And then in my Puerto Rico farm that I'm starting to plant all kinds of fruit trees. I have some existing fruit trees, and I'm planting a lot of perennial vegetables that'll basically grow like a tree, and you can just pick the leaves off of year round and eat. So I'm, you know, and like I've been doing this for a long time, and you know, it's hard to even grow this much food. And I know a lot of you guys haven't grown anything. So even if you've never grown anything before, it's not about an all or nothing journey, right? Put in a small 4-foot by 4-foot raised bed, grow things in a little pot on your windowsill, right? one step at a time, by the inch it's a cinch, by the yard it's hard. The other thing I'll say is that you could also grow sprouts and microgreens indoors, even if you don't have garden space outside. So you could take some responsibility for the food you eat and become a producer instead of a consumer in our consumerism society that I don't necessarily agree with, but I live in. And the more you can produce something yourself, the less you're consuming, and the less that somebody else on the other side of the world needs to produce something. So next thing is very important, is increase your plant diversity and increase the types of foods you're eating. If you want to remain in a raw food context, right? I know a lot of people, some of my long-term friends that are raw vegans, they go to the grocery store, go to the produce terminal every single week, and they always get bananas, oranges, tomatoes, dandelions and romaine lettuce, and maybe a few other things that they just always buy. And I encourage you guys to eat seasonally, because generally if something's in season, then it's going to cost less money. Also, that's going to also encourage you guys to rotate your diet. That's very important, to always eat different things. I don't eat bananas year round. It's actually rare I eat bananas because I really don't like the flavor of Cavendish bananas, which are the main banana. My goal is this is how I eat at home actually. I eat, number one, primarily my food comes from my garden first. So like every day I think, what can I eat in my garden today? How can I make as much meals out of my garden today? I could do, right now I have like unlimited greens. It's insane how many greens I have, like coming out of my ears, coming out of everywhere. So I could be juicing my greens. I could be vacuum blending my greens. I could be eating them raw in salads. I could make them into like a raw vegan soup. I could steam them and eat my greens. And then the next thing is, where am I going to get my fruits from? So my fruits preferably come from the local farms. So I visit the local farms, 2 farms in my area that I visit every week in the season. And I've been eating a lot of like stone fruits this time of year. We still have some plums hanging on. The apples are coming into season. We got Asian pears and regular pears, pomegranates, and hopefully when I get back from this trip, we'll be having persimmons. And then I basically buy them out of persimmons because I only have a few trees. And then like I store them in my fridge for several weeks because they're my favorite fruit. And then, if I don't have enough fruit from them, then the third option is then I go to like the health food stores and buy organic produce. And here's a big tip that just saved you guys a lot of money. If you guys have a natural grocers, I know you guys have natural grocers here in Austin, Texas, but I go to natural grocers every week. And at natural grocers, they have a produce section. It's all organic, so definitely support natural grocers because they have an all organic produce section. You don't have to ask them if it's organic or not because it's all organic at their store. And what they do is when the produce people are picking off all the bad apples, that has a bad spot or the bad greens, they put it in a bin below the cart, and most stores would never give those to you. They'll just basically throw them away or hopefully get them composted industrially. But Natural Grocers has a policy where they basically, if you ask them, the produce manager person or the produce person, hey, do you have compost this week? Right? The compost to them is all the things that had one bad spot, one watermelon that was a little bit soft or whatever, and they'll give it to you for free. Now, I encourage you guys, if you're asking for the compost, that you actually compost it yourself. I do compost a lot of it myself because I get it home. I go through all of it. All the leafy greens are trash because they don't store well. They're going nasty. It's really gross. I would never eat like old greens. But then I got like this last batch, I got like 4 personal watermelons. I got like 2 cantaloupes. They're soft, or one had a bad spot on it. Cut out the bad spot. Because normally I overbuy fruit anyways, and there's gonna be a bad spot anyways. So I call this I rescue food. I do food rescue each week, getting free food, eating organic for cheap. It also rotates my dad because I don't ever know what they're gonna have for free. And then of course, if they don't have enough stuff for free, then I'll go and buy organic stuff or just, buy conventional things at the Mexican or Asian markets that are like jackfruit or rambutan, longan, or whatever else. There are other cool tropical fruits that aren't grown organically. Okay, so that's how I live my life. And of course, I use all the compost to make soil for my garden that then I could enrich my garden full of the nutrients from the organic produce. So as to plant diversity, I want you guys to seek out new fruits. I know I really was a proponent of getting Dave to get cactus fruits. How many people have tried cactus fruits at this event for the first time? Yeah, so like a lot of people don't know what cactus fruits are, and they're one of my favorite fruits. The prickly pears, cactus fruits, also called tunas. But yeah, they're amazing. They're one of my favorite fruits. They're in season right now this time of year. They're more like a wild fruit, and you can swallow the seeds on those. I tend to juice it a lot because the seeds will just go right through you. But I encourage you guys to, try new fruits. Everybody always tries to buy the common fruits that they know and love, but there's so many amazing different fruits out there, especially tropical fruits, but even fruits like the pawpaw that is actually just coming in season. I bought some in California, but I know all over the country here in this part of the country, they're maybe available soon or already. I don't know, but they're amazing fruits too. And then different kinds of berries, and so to me it's really sad when I go into like Whole Foods or any kind of market that has like a produce section, and it's like, okay, you see like a huge variety, or you think you see a huge variety, like there's 240 different kinds of fruits and vegetables they have, but like in the world there's so many more varieties of fruits and vegetables that the store will never sell because some of them don't travel or ship well. Like in a store it's going to be very rare, even unheard of, that you could find fresh mulberries in a store, because once you pick the mulberry, within like a day it's just mush and it's going bad. And there's so many other fruits that are highly perishable, like pawpaws. You won't find pawpaws in store because they bruise super easily also. And these are the fruits that I really enjoy and love. Some of them I grow myself, such as the sweet gomi fruit. They're like they look like little small cherries on the tree. And they're a little bit tart and bitter. And when they get fully ripe, then they're less bitter. But they're full of good nutrition, and especially they're deeply pigmented. So, and also grow loquats. Loquats is another food that maybe you could find in some Asian markets sometimes. But they're like a Asian fruit that is very seedy and generally has less flesh on it. And they're like they look like a little apricot, and they're like delicious. So it's like we're really getting a small subset of the fruit that we could be eating if you want to grow your own, or maybe reach out to local farmers that would have some of these things that I've mentioned at a farmer's market. And of course, there's going to be a lot more vegetables than you guys are eating. I know some people restrict their vegetables, like, oh, romaine's the only leafy green I eat. I encourage everybody to eat all different kinds of leafy greens. Especially in my summer garden, I have so many exotic leafy greens that money can't buy. And here's a real big tip that nobody's probably ever told you or you thought about before. But when you go to the grocery store, they have all the leafy greens, like, in the refrigerated case, and they're also watering it to kind of keep it moist so it doesn't dehydrate and dry out. But if you think about it, all the greens they have at a standard grocery store are all the leafy greens that I could grow in the fall and winter time, many of which can handle getting freezing temperatures and then thaw out and still be okay and alive in my garden, right? So they're growing what will stay fresh on the shelf. Meanwhile, some of the tropical leafy greens that I grow, like actually, I saw a hemp farmer actually 2 weeks ago at the farmer's market near me. And I'm like, why don't you're a hemp farmer selling the non-psychoactive hemp. He was selling peppers that he grew with the hemp mulch and hemp compost. But I'm like, why don't you sell the hemp leaves? He's like, man, if I harvest the hemp leaves, they look like crap because they wilt so fast. There's a lot of leafy greens, tropical leafy greens, that hate the cold. I mean, when my garden gets below 40 degrees, like a lot of my summer leafy greens that I grow that love the heat, love over 100 degrees. We had over 77 days of 100 degrees in Las Vegas this year. They're gone. They're just checking out. So you can't harvest these, put them in a box, put them on a truck, and then ship them long distances. So we're really eating a small variety of food that we could be eating based on what you're buying at the grocery store. But when you choose to grow your own food, you can grow some of these heat-tolerant foods that love the heat but hate the cold. And I mean, these are the tropical vegetables. Some people in our lifestyle will say, tropical fruits are the best fruits for us because we originated in the tropics, right? And I'm not going to dispute that, but what I will dispute is that if we're eating tropical fruits, we should also be eating tropical vegetables. We should just eat lettuce, which is a non-tropical vegetable. So some of these things, I've just kind of realized over the years, whoa. So if you live in the tropics, you can grow these tropical vegetable plants, perennial vegetables, year round. So in Las Vegas, because it gets cold, I lose them in the winter. Then I plant all the winter vegetables, which is all the ones I could buy in the store. And in the summertime, I'm not eating the ones out of the store. I'm eating the ones out of my garden, which I normally wouldn't have access to unless I was on my property in Puerto Rico, where I'm actually at the end of the season in Vegas, before my plants get too cold and lose their lives, I'll basically uproot them, I'll put them in my luggage, and I'll take them to Puerto Rico, and then they go on a forever vacation getting planted in my garden in Puerto Rico, and then they live out their lives and grow me lots more food. And so I've hardened them off with over 100-degree days, and then they get to literally go on vacation in the tropics where it's 80 degrees and getting rained on regularly by nature and in the sun. So I really enjoyed that too. And plus I'm keeping my plants alive, which I also appreciate. Of course, if you want to stay raw, you could also increase your diversity besides fruits and vegetables. Oh, and on the vegetables, if you don't grow them yourself, don't be too scared. You could go to most Asian markets. Most Asian markets have a much higher percentage of more tropical vegetables that tend to, spoil very quickly, but they have to bring them in more often so that you can expand your diversity of vegetables. There are so many of them. Most Asian vegetables can be eaten raw. There are a few that do need to be cooked because they can be toxic. So, do research if you choose to buy new, like leafy greens that you aren't familiar with. Of course, I also eat cooked beans, but if you want to stay raw, you could sprout beans, which are very important to expand your diversity, because we're often taught in our raw vegan lifestyles that for your calories, you're either getting it from fat or from fruit. And like, I went to the raw vegan restaurant here in town, and that day I was getting my calories from fat, and I did not feel that good the next day. But nonetheless, you could get your calories from fat or fruit, but that's totally a misnomer, because you could get your calories from other foods such as sprouted beans and grains, which is like what Ann Wigmore and Hippocrates style. Well, they do low fruit and then higher sprouted beans and grains, but you could do that also, or include a mix of those. It's not like, to me, it's not about all or nothing. And of course, we want to eat smaller amounts of nuts and seeds. I also include seaweeds and different kinds of seaweeds for nutrients like iodine. And also, of course, I include the spices. And then I talked about it, grow your own produce for the highest quality and lower cost. And you could do things to grow higher quality produce than money can buy, because the farmers are growing for profit, not for your health, right? When they grow for profit, they're trying to use the least amount of inputs to get the maximum output. And when you're growing for your health, then you could actually spend extra money on things like rock dust, on worm castings. You could take your time to make compost teas that are going to invigorate and expand the biology that helps the rock dust break down and make it more plant available, so the minerals can now come inside your plants. So you don't have to supplement with additional minerals in your diet. And the other thing about growing your own food is very important, is that you get to choose the varieties you're growing. Much like I talked about the tropical vegetables that I grow in the summertime, you could choose different vegetables to grow. So, if you go to the store and buy tomatoes, pretty much all the tomatoes you see will be red. I mean, you might see some other colored tomatoes someplace, but most tomatoes are red. But I usually go to the Heirloom Festival every single year, and they have a display of like literally hundreds of colors of different types of tomatoes that all have different and unique flavors. Now, the one thing I recently learned about tomatoes that I've shared in one video, but it's hidden in a video, and I want to give credit to Dr. Karen Dina for this, because she had a video on it. She said, so what people mostly say is like, hey, a reason not to eat cooked foods is because you got to cook tomatoes to get more lycopene in you, which is true. When you cook the tomatoes, the lycopene breaks down. I think it's from the trans lycopene to the cis lycopene that's better absorbed. But what they don't tell you, and what Karen Dina revealed to me, is that Karen Dina said orange and yellow tomatoes have the preformed cis lycopene, right? And then if you eat that raw, you're going to get actually higher absorption than even cooked red tomatoes, given the same amount of size. That being said, what she failed to mention is that it's only certain yellow or orange tomatoes that have the cis lycopene, because it depends on the cultivar. What makes the orange or yellow tomatoes yellow or orange? Well, it's either cis lycopene or it's beta carotene. So you got to make sure you get the cis lycopene rich tomatoes if you want high absorption from the lycopene without cooking your tomatoes. So you could tell those people off that tell you got to cook tomatoes to eat them, so you shouldn't be raw, because I've had that happen to me so many times. So there is a website, actually I found in Australia, that has done testing on cis lycopene content in tomatoes with the specific cultivars so that you can grow them yourself. But if you just go to the store, they're just yellow tomatoes, you don't know what they are and if they have the cis lycopene in there. So yeah, and then also too, when you're growing any food, like instead of growing the green okra, I grow the purple okra because it's more nutritious. Instead of growing the green lettuce, I grow the purple lettuce because it's also more nutritious with anthocyanins. I didn't bring my chart today because normally I have a graph that I'll show the differences. But growing your own is so important. And then the other thing is that the next point I want to make is I want you guys to eat more vegetables, especially leafy greens. I'm a big fan of eating vegetables. I know some people in our community will tend to say, eat all fruit. We don't need any vegetables, or we need very little vegetables, or we could take this powdered vegetable supplement powder thing. Like I believe that we should eat as many vegetables and especially leafy greens as we possibly could fit in. They're definitely lower in calories, so it's very difficult to get your calories from vegetables. But you know, I concentrate them by juicing, by vacuum blending. These days I even cook my greens, and at one time I ate 51% or more of my calories from veggies, and that was a lot of work. I don't recommend it, but we want to get our percentage of calories from vegetables, you know, up fairly significantly over what some people in this space teach, in my opinion. Next thing, very important on the flip side, we also want to avoid the sweet fruit trap. And actually with that, I think I'll send around the samples today. So we want to avoid the sweet fruit trap. And you know, I mean, people would agree that if you take white sugar and eat it, it gives us a dopamine hit in our brains, right? And that, so the sample coming out, we have two things. So only eat one thing now. The other thing you will want to save. So you want to eat not the big chunky thing that's like red. You want to only eat the little freeze-dried peach. It's a freeze-dried white peach is what you should be eating right now. No, that's the other one. So let's see, I'll hold it up. So the freeze-dried peach basically is this. You can see it's white and then it has like a red skin on it. And then the other one is like basically my soup, which you'll eat in a second. It's freeze-dried, which I'll be talking about. But nonetheless, my point is that avoid the sweet fruit trap. So like, you know, everybody would agree sugar creates a dopamine hit. It can be addictive. I've seen people in our community, unfortunately, you know, the fruit is not sweet enough because it's low BRIX and they haven't even tested it. And then to make it sweeter, they have to dump in extra sugar to make it sweet enough to drink. Definitely don't recommend doing that. But even then, you know, if you have good sweet fruit, you want to, like that feels really good. You get a dopamine hit, it makes you feel good, then you want to eat more. Even if it isn't in its fruit state, whole fruit state. But then even worse, if you juice it and extract the juice, you know, you're concentrating the sugar more. And of course, the sample I just sent out is freeze-dried, locally grown Vegas white peaches that are then even more, you know, you taste the flavors more and the sugar more, which could get you in trouble because it got me in trouble during the pandemic because I was eating for emotional reasons thinking, oh, freeze-dried fruit is good, but I was getting way too much sugar at that point. So I want you guys to have some awareness about overeating fruits. You could overeat any food, and you know, fruits have been one of the things that have been problematic for me personally. Also things like dates, it's very easy to just start eating dates or meals of dates, and it tastes so good, especially when you combine them with, you know, nut butter, which is definitely not good. So I really want to put that awareness out there that, you know, to not eat too many fruits. And then the next thing, very important, this may be controversial, is I don't want you guys to make the macronutrient mistake. That's what I'm going to call it. There's some diets out there, could be like 95-5, 80-10-10, whatever the macronutrient numbers are that, you know, these are the targets that we should be eating. You know, I think that's great if you want to focus on numbers, but these only tells about the, you know, nutrients that are required for us according to some higher powers like government. They'll say like you need a certain amount of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, but other macronutrients that are not unfortunately talked about, that is talked about even by the USDA, because I had a video on it, is also the water, and also they talk about fiber as another macronutrient technically, right? And then I don't want you to focus on just the macronutrients, and I mean, it's very important to get enough calories, of course, but I want you guys to focus on the micronutrients. And unfortunately, like not many people talk about this. I know Dr. Joel Fuhrman talks about it a lot because that's who I learned it from. It's all the micronutrients in the plants, all the smaller components, not the macronutrients, but the micronutrients such as the vitamins, the minerals. Very important for me is the phytochemicals, and also, especially as I learned about the microbiome, the different types of fiber. People classify fibers like soluble and insoluble, but there's so many other different kinds of fibers, cellulose, hemicellulose, like pectin, all these different kinds. There's like resistant starches that can feed your microbiome too, very important. And so I don't want you to just be hyper focused on the macronutrients. I want you to always consider other micronutrients in the foods as well. This is also the next one on the back side is I want you guys to focus on a disease preventative foods. So not all raw foods.
Can we get another paper?
I ran out. So I will, oh yeah, well, this is the last day, so I won't have it. This video will be online on my YouTube channel on OK Raw. So you guys want to have all this information. It'll be online at a later point. So I want you guys to focus on disease preventative foods. Not all raw foods are created equal. I want everybody to include cruciferous vegetables unless they don't agree with you. Things like berries and spices, colorful, bitter, and sour foods. Right? When we have foods that taste a little bit different, not just sweet, these are all some of the compounds in the plants that, in my opinion, and based on the science, make it healthy for us to eat. So I really try to even eat like things like bitter melon, which are really fun. I mean, they are a fruit, but they're not a sweet fruit, and it's unfortunate in our movement here that we're a lot of focused on sweet fruits in many cases and not just the non-sweet fruits, even bitter fruits like noni, which I know some people in the movement like, and I recently tasted it, and it reminded me of eating like dandelion leaves. And so that's like, I liked it. And we need to embrace like different tastes and sensations, not just the sweet flavor. Another thing I want you guys to do when considering your food choices is consider your microbiome. I discussed this a bit earlier, that we have 30 trillion human cells in our body, but we have approximately 39 trillion microbial cells. So we have to take care of our microbes, including beneficial bacteria and yeasts, and archaea that are our partners in health. We should work with them instead of against them. And then next up is an area I really love a lot, is how to prepare your food. Very important. Number one, of course, is chewing. I'm never going to say an appliance should take the place of chewing. I think it can supplement chewing, but you know, there's benefits of using machines, but we all are giving the nature's best juicers, which is our teeth, and we should chew our food. Why do we give babies baby food? Because they don't have teeth, they can't chew yet, and they're gonna choke otherwise. But every mouthful that we eat should be turned into mush before swallowing. This way we create the most surface area so that our bodies and our microbiome could get the best benefit from the food. That being said, I will say that some appliances can do a better job than our teeth to break open cell walls and make nutrients more bioavailable to us. So what I'm going to demonstrate next is actually a thing I do that makes my diet a lot easier and I'm more compliant. Dr. Sam talked about this a little bit easier, is make your diet convenient instead of inconvenient, right? So I know a lot of people work, and I mean, I'm very busy doing everything I'm doing, but one of the things I like to do is I like to do batch food preparation. And before I had basically a vacuum sealing of food, if you made a salad and then tried to store the salad all week in your fridge, it would get soggy, it would get limp, it'd be starting to taste funny and off, and it could go bad, right? I could make a huge salad or a raw soup or whatever. I store it in these mason jars with a vacuum lid, removing 80 to 85% of the oxygen, and I basically make a big batch like one day a week. I mean, my day isn't Saturday or Sunday like some people's. If you're working during the week, I do it whatever day I'm available, but then I could store, 5 jars of this, of my salad, and every day I made it convenient because when I'm hungry, I don't have to pick stuff from my garden, chop it all up, make a dressing, then I get to sit down and eat, which is better. I agree, it's better to make your stuff fresh every day if you have the time, but I'm so busy that I'm not gonna do that every day, so I could just basically have jars packed with salad, or actually have 2 jars of raw vegan soup. Actually, that's the other one if you got antsy and already tasted it. Don't taste it yet, but I have 2 jars of raw vegan soup that I made 2 days before I left, and when I come back, it'll be the 8th day that I've stored this soup that'll still be good inside my mason jar.
John, if you only use half that jar, do you have to vacuum seal it again?
Yes, so I'll take questions at the end, but the question was, if you only fill half this jar and you take something out, should you vacuum seal it in? Absolutely, but then even better than that, if you're only going to fill half the jar, or only use half the jar, you shouldn't even pack it in this size jar. You should pack it in a half-size jar. You want to pack it in a half-size jar so that when you take off the lid, you eat the whole thing so you don't have to repack it, because when you open it up, you're exposing it to oxygen, and then that second half is going to degrade faster than if you just did it the first time the right way and then open the whole thing and drink it. So whether you want to get the 16-ounce jars, or for my dad, I make them 8-ounce jars of half full with the healthy food I make for them. It's very important to do that. So yeah, so actually what I wanted to demonstrate real quick is we're just going to demonstrate a little bit of that. So we're just going to use the vacuum blender, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But this is the example of how I would store my food, and we're going to show you guys why removing the air is really important.
Water?
Yeah, so we just put like one little bottle of 12 ounces of water, and then we're just gonna break up this organic tomato and drop it in there. Then we're gonna put it in the blender. Now this time we're just gonna start the blender with no vacuum or anything. So we're just gonna go ahead and hit the blend button. All right, so that was,
We're at the top of the hour,
oh wow, already.
but we're gonna keep going with John Kohler. The sound healing is starting now, so it is gonna close off. So if you wanna be a part of the sound healing, now's your chance. Otherwise, do you guys want some more time with John Kohler?
And this, if you wanna leave, then this video will be online for later, so you're fine.
Can we come back here and put it over there?
I think I'll be done by then.
Also, are Brian and Michelle in here? Brian and Michelle? Okay.
All right, so basically this is just blended water with tomatoes. We'll put it in one jar. And then we're gonna do the same water and tomatoes, but instead of just blending it and adding in all the air, we're gonna take out the oxygen before we blend.
What else are you adding?
It's just water and tomatoes, and then we have a vacuum pump that then you put on the top, and this pump comes on, and basically it sucks the excess oxygen out of the jar. I think this pump maybe removes about 70% of the oxygen, maybe high 60s or 70% of the oxygen out. So you may see like some bubbles coming out of the water or out of the tomatoes as the air is removed. Depending on the vacuum blender you use, like this is a dedicated Dynapro vacuum blender, it's like $600. But if you have a BlendTech blender now, you could just buy the lid for the BlendTech. This will go on your BlendTech, and this thing, when you turn it on, if you turn it on, this pump comes on and will suck out the air out of your BlendTech, so you don't have to buy any additional vacuum blender. Now I know most of you guys probably don't have a BlendTech, but you have a Vitamix. So if you have a Vitamix, then you could buy this lid with a new carafe that will fit on your traditional Vitamix, not the new ones with the self-detect chip like the Ascent and Venturis. This kit will not work on. That way you can start to vacuum blend. So like this pump really takes a long time to remove the oxygen, maybe like 90 seconds. And once you do, you just remove it. But like we're gonna do a cheat thing. So I have a manual pump that you actually also put on here. And then you can just pump out the air, the manual method. If I line it up properly. And then using the pump with this, you could get up to 80%, around 80% oxygen removal. So the less oxygen that's in the carafe and in your mixture, that means the less you're mixing in air when you're blending. So when you're done blending, you will usually make a smoothie that's nice and foamy, and you're all gonna get to sample the watermelon vacuum blended and not in a minute. But this is just the tomatoes for demonstration purposes to show you guys a separation. And now we're gonna blend this up the same amount of time. And then when you're done with this, you're gonna basically pull this tab. You can hear the air rush back in. And now we'll pour this one out into the other jar. All right, so generally what happens is with the vacuum blended one, it'll separate, maybe not at all or much less quickly than the other one. Also, generally it'll have more air in there. So once you make a smoothie or a juice or whatever, even the food, you could put it in here, and then you'll basically use the pump to suck out the extra oxygen in the head space, but also you'll remove the oxygen in the dissolved oxygen in the mixture itself. So if I keep pumping, I'm literally just gonna start pumping the air bubbles out the top. And for some reason it looks like maybe this one put a little bit more air in than usual. But nonetheless, on these lids, they have a little divot that will be indented if you have it vacuum sealed. I didn't pull anywhere near 80 because you gotta keep doing it multiple times. But that's how it works. So I would store things like up to a week like that, my juices and vacuum blended smoothies. So yeah, I like to batch prep my food and then vacuum store it with the Pure MVP vacuum pump. I have a link online where to buy it, and I have more videos on my YouTube channel sharing how to do that and demonstrating it. I also recommend slow juicing or vacuum juicing. So slow juicing using a slow juicer that runs at a low RPM. But the best method, even besides even buying a juicer, is actually buying a blender. You can then blend up your mixture under vacuum without the oxygen, and the blenders are more efficient than a slow juicer because it basically grinds up and blows open more cell walls than a juicer does. That's number one, and it's doing it in an oxygen-deprived environment, which the slow juicers are in atmospheric air and still adding some air in, even if it's running at a slow RPM. And then you take it and put it through Alexa's bag, which is a special nut milk bag. I've tested them all to find the best one, that you pour that out and then squeeze it out. So now you've grounded it the best, and now through the bag that has a small pore size and small holes, it lets a lot of the nutrients through and just retains the fiber. Whereas if you're using like a Norwalk juicer that has a press, that cloth, it leaves a lot of nutrients like in the press cloth behind, not in the juice. And so that would be the best way to juice, is by using a vacuum juicing technique. There's no vacuum juicers out yet. And I only recommend juicing leafy greens, vegetables, and non-sweet fruits. I don't recommend juicing fruits any longer like I used to do. Next up, we want to vacuum blend things. So actually now we're going to do a vacuum blending demo here. So first we're going to put the watermelons in the vacuum blender. This is just plain watermelon, just cut up. And so you guys could taste the difference. Because I mean, I make a lot of videos on this, and like people don't like, I don't know, they don't believe me. How could just removing the oxygen make a huge difference? Until you buy one and you're like, oh, and then you do it yourself and then you're like, oh my gosh, that made a huge difference. So let's see if we could get this going here. So yeah, so what's happening is it's pulling out all the oxygen out of the, the space around the watermelon, and some of the oxygen out of the watermelon is being pulled out at this point. So I'll let it go a complete cycle until this shuts off, so that may take a little bit, and then we'll send around Alex with samples for you guys. Hopefully you saved all your sample cups. So first, I guess I'm doing it backwards. I'm doing a vacuum blended first. Maybe we'll do it the other way. We'll do the non-vacuum blended first. So I'm gonna just blend this normal like you would in a Vitamix. All right, 15 seconds, just traditional blending, no oxygen removed. And then you could all try that. But the main difference with vacuum blending and not, this is like everybody just normally blends. And when I first learned about vacuum blending in 1997 at the trade show in Chicago, there was a company from Japan that invented these. I think they invented it in like 2013. And then they finally got to the US in 2017. And then I drank my first, smoothie out of a vacuum blender. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been blending wrong all these years, because this was truly a better way to blend. But, still, even though this has been out since 2018 in the US, still a lot of people unfortunately don't even talk about or even know about it. And the reason, in my opinion, is that unless you experience the difference yourself, you're not going to think that vacuum blending is going to make a difference. And most Americans, when they tried to come out with the vacuum blenders for like Oster and all these other companies, they didn't sell well because they didn't do the education needed to educate the people about the differences when you remove the oxygen. So what are the differences? Number one, the differences you will be swallowing less oxygen, less dissolved oxygen, less air. A lot of you guys may drink smoothies, and when you fill up the crap, it starts here, then you're done. It it made more. That's because it's all the dissolved oxygen you're adding into it. When you drink dissolved oxygen, that you're swallowing extra air, which then can give you gas, belching, and bloating. In addition, that oxygen, proven by scientific published studies, and here's a little graph here. It's basically some of the nutrients that are oxygen sensitive can be up to 2 times or even 3 times more. So for example, in this graph, the polyphenol content, as well as the antioxidant content and vitamin A content, also vitamin C could be affected because it's oxygen sensitive, can be like up to 2 times more. This is in a study they did with blueberries and apples. It also has a brighter color, smoother texture. It stays fresher for longer and is more nutritious. So the whole thing is, if you vacuum blend, then you vacuum seal it. I have a friend, Kailash, who will vacuum seal his blended mixtures in 16-ounce mason jars, keep them, cold in the fridge. with the vacuum lids, then you could basically blend once, like on a Sunday, and then have these, once again, making it convenient, easy to go, grab and go when you're on your way to work, instead of having to make your smoothie in the morning. It's still always best to vacuum blend immediately and then drink it immediately, but if you're busy and you're not gonna make your life convenient and conducive to eating more raw fruits and vegetables, you're not gonna do it. And so to me, this is easy. When I'm busy with my life, I always have prepared green juices and food in my fridge I can just grab and be out the door and do what I need to do in my life. So it's a huge benefit. And I don't recommend, if you just blend normally and then vacuum seal it, the problem is the damage was done during the blending process, not removing the oxygen after the storage process. So the damage is already done when you're blending because you're mixing in all the oxygen that's degrading some of those oxygen-sensitive nutrients. I guess we'll move on. I'll talk about the freeze drying next. So vacuum blending, you're removing the oxygen, and blending with freeze drying, which was what I recommend instead of dehydration these days, does the same thing. Does anybody want more? Otherwise, it's going to go down the sink. Well, yeah, I got to get the carafe empty so I can make the vacuum one. But the next thing I recommend is freeze drying instead of standard dehydration. So when you're dehydrating, you're basically blowing hot air across the trays that then that oxidizes whatever you're blowing the hot air across. So for example, if you put avocados in the dehydrator, they turn black because it's oxidizing. It's increasing the rate of oxidation because you're blowing hot air over it, and the oxygen you're blowing over it is causing oxidation. Meanwhile, if I put avocados in the freeze dryer, which I know at least one person in here have had before, they look like avocados, but they just have the moisture removed. And they taste like an avocado. It's insane. So you guys had a little bit earlier the freeze-dried peach that basically tastes like a peach, but concentrated. It just usually will crunch in your mouth. And I also sent around my freeze-dried soup, which is basically I juice bell peppers and carrots. That's the base. I then vacuum blend the juice with other nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices. And then I go around my garden and pick one of all the different things in my garden, chop it up. I'll add other things like heat processed mushrooms to that soup, and maybe some beans, maybe a few other ingredients, and then shred zucchini, shred up carrots, shred up beets, any kind of vegetables that I have from my natural grocer's box that week, and then make a soup, and then I'll basically vacuum store it. And then when I have too much or I can't eat it all, then I will freeze dry it. So now it's good for up to 25 years if you store it properly in a Mylar bag that doesn't let the oxygen through. I also put an oxygen absorber in there. So if you guys want to try more of my freeze-dried stuff, I actually did bring some freeze-dried food here for sale after the event, or after my talk. I have jackfruit, like white corn, cauliflower, and these are all plain, like nothing added to them. These are apriums, locally grown in Vegas. These ones are bananas, and then these ones are fun. These are organic yellow potatoes. So these are not raw, so if you want to stay raw, you want to get any of the other ones. But this one is actually, I pressure cook it in the pressure cooker and then I freeze dry it. So these are the healthiest potato chips with no acrylamide, no salt, no oil, no nothing. And I brought them here last year and a lot of people liked them. To me, they kind of just, maybe I shouldn't say what, I'll tell you what they taste like to me. To me, they just taste like you're eating chalk. Like I'd rather eat some watermelons, man. But some people here, maybe they've never had them before, but freeze-dried sweet potatoes that are cooked taste really good. But potatoes, not so good. But I do this for my resistant starch, not necessarily for my taste buds. All right, so now we're gonna do the vacuum blended version so you guys could taste the difference. We're just gonna let that vacuum out. So yeah, the freeze-dried food, how that works is basically while the food is frozen, right, it pulls a vacuum, so it pulls the oxygen out of the chamber, and as the food is frozen, it then gently heats it to sublimate out the water, so the cell structure of the food pretty much stays the same. The water is just sublimated. So under vacuum, water could either be frozen or it could be liquid, gas, not liquid. So under freeze drying, the frozen food is in there, and then under vacuum, the water vapor comes out. So like the steam comes out, and then it condenses to the side of the freeze dryer. Then when you're done, the freeze dryer is just full of ice. So then I could take that ice, defrost it, and then I could drink it. So then I could have water purely from jackfruit. It's just the water extracted from the jackfruit that came out in the freeze dryer. Then I could drink that separately. So some of them will have an interesting flavor, like, oh, this kind of tastes reminiscent of jackfruit a little bit because it has like a faint jackfruit flavor. And it's the water that's filtered from the plant. So this is like basically, yeah, it's kind of like a distilled water from the plant. It's totally insane, all the crazy things I do. So now we're just gonna make sure we put an extra vacuum on this. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and blend it for 15 seconds. All right, let's make sure it worked. All right, lots of air went back in there. So once again, this is just banana, or just watermelon, only plain watermelon. This is the vacuum blended version, so you guys can taste the difference. So then, you know, what I'm really into is like using appropriate appliances, using the best appliances when we're not gonna chew our food to maximize their food value. And then the next thing I will say is, because I've been on a heat processed food journey, I'll say not all cooked foods are bad or addictive. You know, definitely there are foods in the cooked foods world that are quite toxic and we should totally, completely avoid. And you know, a lot of raw vegans here would say, some raw vegans here would say all cooked foods are bad. But what I'll tell you, basically looking up the science, is that you want to definitely avoid highly processed foods, ultra processed foods, including things like fried foods, barbecuing, microwaving, high temperature, dry cooking. And these cooking methods will create harmful compounds, including acrylamide, heterocyclic amines, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and AGEs, or advanced glycation end products, as well as these other compounds. If you like heat fat, it's like 2-MCPDs and all these other things that we don't want. And there's a study that came out in the published journals about like raw vegans and their MCPD and acrylamide, you know, in their blood, and the raw vegans had the least amount of these toxins, cooked food toxins in their blood. So this is totally true. But the saddest thing to that study, because they compared raw vegans to omnivores, and the vegans actually had higher acrylamide levels than even the cooked food or omnivores, which is sad to me. But there's a way you could still you know, eat heat processed foods and not get these cooked food toxins, is by gently heating your foods. And that's what I do these days. I use an Instant Pot, and the cooked foods part of my diet is about 10 to 20%. And you can steam, boil, or pressure cook them. You want to always cook for the shortest amount of time at the lowest temperature, below 248, so you avoid the cooked food toxins. And then that allows you to expand your plant diversity you can eat. So now I eat things like beans, heirloom grains, mushrooms, nutrient-dense starches, including purple rice, purple potatoes, purple sweet potatoes. Interesting study that Dr. Greger, if you know who Dr. Greger is, did. He said that, like, you know, russet potatoes will raise your blood sugar, but purple potatoes will put your blood sugar in the opposite direction. So I always, you know, make the smartest choices to choose the healthiest foods, and if I do decide to cook them in the least, you know, toxic methods. So I mean, I think that's the end of all my tips today. I have my contact information here if you guys want to see videos. I have on each of these points, I have many videos going into detail about more than I could just share in a short talk. But what did you guys think about the difference between vacuum blended versus non-vacuum blending? You taste the difference? Yeah, way smoother. The texture's better, the flavor's better, and of course, yeah, it's not frothy. Yeah, you're really tasting the food. So yeah, I had one lady actually she returned this blender to me after I sold it to her. I'm like, why are you returning it? Because nobody's ever returned it. She's like, it made everything taste too strong. I'm like, yeah, it tastes stronger because there's more nutrition in there. It's not you're not airing up your smoothie with air. You don't want to dilute it down with water, but you don't want to air it up either. That's my friend Kailash told me, and my other friend Nate from Lissa and Nate said that once you go back, you don't go back. Because once you experience this, you're like, wow, I can't do it the other way again. Especially once you get these and you make the same recipes that you've been making for years. In this, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. And this is a one-time investment purchase, right? And I mean, growing your food is more work, but just, you know, I encourage you guys to do, you know, some of the different things I've shared on here. The one that really reaches out to you or calls to you, if you incorporate all these or more of these, I think you're going to see a greater health benefit than just doing one or two of them. And, you know, you could pick off the easy ones first. Oh, I could just start growing my food. I could buy a vacuum blender and change all the blended mixtures I have and have up to 2 to 3 times more of the oxygen sensitive nutrients every time I blend. Also, I won't get bloated. Maybe I'll be more compliant. Maybe you want to start vacuum sealing things and storing things so you could just prep food once a week and have it in your fridge and just pull it out and ready to go, you know? I mean, so many things I've learned over the years. I'm so glad to be able to be here today and share them with you guys in person, and I'm glad to hang out as long as I can to answer any questions you may have. Thanks. Mason.
Hey, thanks, John. That was great. I had a question about freeze drying. I think you were using one type, and then there were some issues. And where are you at now? What kind are you currently using?
So what I can tell you is that I only promote the Stay Fresh freeze dryer brand. That's the best one that I found. I can't talk about other brands because there was like a lawsuit thing. So I could only say if you're going to get a freeze dryer, get the Stay Fresh. I do have videos on my Growing Your Greens YouTube channel where I basically show how to preserve your lettuce. I harvest lettuce out of my garden. I freeze dry it, and you can store it for up to 25 years. I also have videos on unboxing the freeze dryer so you guys could learn how to set it up. I actually have a video on my OK Raw channel where I go to the warehouse in Los Angeles and I share and take apart the freeze dryer and show you guys exactly why it's better than other brands out there that I can't mention names. Yes?
We've experienced we've got one of those hand pumps.
This pump, the pure vacuum pump?
And what we've experienced is sometimes when you fill the jar too much with too much stuff, it comes up into the pump.
Right.
So the question is, how do you clean it, and what kind of grease do you add
Sure.
to make it so that it works?
Sure, so the question is, she has this pump, and when she's like filling the mason jar, she'll pump with the pump and stuff will get into the pump. So the first thing you want to do to avoid that is when you fill your mason jars, especially if you're using liquid, like don't put too much liquid in there. So if we fill it half full, like we could pump all we want. You'll get a good workout too, and you can see the head. We've just like really created a lot of bubbles because we're literally pulling the oxygen out. And if we filled it up to here, those bubbles will come out the top, which is a problem. So what I'll do is I'll fill it only up to like, if it's a juice, I'll fill it up to here. And different juices are different. So like celery juice will have more bubbles than say, other juices anyways. And then what I do is I'll tap the bubbles down, and then I'll basically re-pump again so that and then I keep an eye so I don't ever have the bubbles come out. But if you do get this stuff in your pump, this is made out of aircraft quality aluminum, and you can just basically take it apart, and then you can wash this. So you could just wash this in your sink, or actually you could actually put this in a clean thing of water and just pump it and pump water through it. But I would then just rinse it off, and then the guy that makes this, he would say use like Vaseline. And then if you're thinking the other thing that you're thinking like, John, that pump's expensive because it comes with this pump and then like 12 lids, it's like over $100. And you're like, I could get one cheaper on Amazon. My answer is yes, you can. And I've tested all the ones on Amazon. I tested like 11 different pumps I bought on Amazon. And the problem with those pumps is that they only pump out to like up to 62% of the oxygen. This will get you 80 to 85%, and the difference is, oh, it's only 20 points more. No, the difference is what you're leaving in. So a 60% pump is leaving in 40% oxygen, an 80% pump or 85% pump is keeping only 20% or 15% of the oxygen left, and that differential is very important for long-term food preservation without growing mold and it going bad. Because mold can't grow in an oxygen-free environment, and a lot of bacteria can't grow if they need the air to grow or oxygen to grow. So that's the big difference on that one.
John, where do you put the Vaseline?
Oh, so if you do need to take it apart and clean it, what you need to do is basically this O-ring. This O-ring needs to make a good seal against the walls so it could actually suck the vacuum. And if it's like totally dry and it's not making a good seal, you would just spread it all around on this little black thing all the way around.
Thank you.
Yes, you had a question.
Yes, thank you. You're mentioning the Norwalk, and this is the same, some of the same reasons Norwalk, Dr. Walker used to break up the cell wall.
Right.
And then he was using hydraulic force.
Sure.
To build that. What exactly was your recommendation on this?
Oh, so my recommendation, all right, so the thing is, Norman Walker recommended the Norwalk Juicer, which he invented, like literally. He would grind up the food into a pulp, and then he would put it in a hydraulic press, in a press cloth, and then press out the juice.
Yeah, I've used them, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I have a Norwalk and a pure juicer, but so the differences between what I would recommend. So I'll tell you the problems with the Norwalk.
Okay.
The problems with the Norwalk are step number one, when you grind things up, it's basically a fast spinning blade that adds a lot of oxygen. Sure. So like if you grind up carrots, the carrots as the mush comes out will be kind of brownish tinged.
Right.
And that's if you put apples in, it'll be even worse. The other issue, if you like grind thing like ginger up, it'll like clog the blade up and kind of make it back up and not work well. So that's one issue, is that it adds a lot of oxygen. Second issue is that it doesn't grind to a fine particle size. I mean, depending on the grid you're using, it may grind better or worse, but the third issue is that it does multiple hits on the produce, which then causes more oxidation. Okay, now if you do get it to grind, the next problem is once you take those grinds and you put it in the press cloth, then you put it in the press cloth, you press it out with tons of hydraulic force, which is great. The issue I have with that is that the press cloth, when you look through it, right, it's like looking through like a shirt. You can't look through it. Because you can't look through it, that means particles, small particles, minute particles in the juice that you could see like settled here, right? Are not in the juice, so that you're like leaving nutrition on the table because it's holding back nutrition. I mean, Dr. Greger has an anti-juicing video because he says, oh, juicing, there's a lot of nutrients still left in the fiber, which, you know, I could, on some levels, he compares it with carob, which is some BS stuff, because like we're not juicing carob, we're juicing fruits and vegetables, which are a little bit different. But we want to get as much of the nutrients out of the fiber as possible, and we're holding it back if we're not blowing open cell walls the maximum way, and we're leaving too much in the cloth. I mean, if you use a traditional slow juicer, they have larger holes, so more particulate comes out. But the problem with slow juicers is that they don't grind to a fine particle size.
I think that's the reason he said that the half-life on juice was about 30 minutes or 20 minutes.
Well, see, that's why well, so back then he was totally accurate. I could totally agree with him. He did a lot of oxidation during that process, and now when
He claimed you could squeeze it out, you know, in the hydraulic part.
Yeah, so what I'll say now is that using a vacuum blender, and the other thing is that all that's done in atmospheric conditions. Okay, so now with a vacuum blender, you can vacuum blend your mixture. So I have videos comparing actually using a vacuum blender. I think this blender actually, I vacuum blended celery, and I used the same amount and quantity of celery in the pure juicer, which is like a Norwalk. I ground it up, and I did the same thing in here, vacuum blended the celery up without the oxygen. So this one, number one, did a better job at grinding because this does multiple hits on the produce until it's to a fine texture until you turn it off. It'll keep getting finer into a point, and when you put the celery through, it grinds it and then it kicks it out immediately. So you're not opening all the cell walls as effectively as new modern technology than what Norman Walker invented in the 1900s. Number two, I recommend a specific press cloth or press bag called the Alexis bag that you could actually see through. And so the pore size is larger, so it lets more fiber, particulate, and nutrients through. And so I'm accomplishing two things. Number one, I'm grinding to a finer particle size, blowing open more cell walls. Number two, I'm allowing more of that fiber to come into the juice and more nutrients.
Thank you.
So that's the specific thing. Do what?
You said you had
Yeah, special one. So I use the Alexis bags, is a special kind of nut milk bag that I recommend. They have, they're certified BPA safe or whatever. They also have they have rounded corners, so there's no corners for stuff to get stuck in. It has no drawstring, which is a harborage point, and has a 1-year replacement guarantee. AlexisBags.com.
like the car?
Alexa, Alexa, BAGS. Yes. Alexis bags, not Lexus. That's Lexus. Yes, in the back.
Well, once you take your liquid out of your pitcher and put it into your bag, do you squeeze it by hand?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So back to the demo. So I did the demo with celery in this machine, and then squeeze it in the bag, and then I used a $2,500 juicer to do the same amount. And guess what? I basically made the same amount of juice using both methods. So in this case, we didn't need all the hydraulic pressure of the press, because if we're breaking down cell walls to a really fine size, on celery and greens and even things like fruits, you could easily squeeze it out yourself and get some good exercise at the same time and good contact with your skin with the phytochemicals in the fruits and vegetables you're juicing, right? But on the same token, if you're doing carrots, right, that's when I think the press would come in more handy, because if I just did you can't do straight carrots because you'd have to add water, then you're diluting the juice, and then carrots have a much more harder fiber, so it'd be more difficult to get as high of a yield doing my method, although you would fractionate the cell walls better. But if you did half cucumber, half carrots, that would, you could be able to do that pretty good. But the carrots do take more strength to juice, but that's also building up our grip strength, which is very important for longevity, in my opinion. Than other things, leafy greens, fruits, and celery, things are very easy to vacuum juice. And all during the pandemic, I was doing that when, fruit was more scarce, or fruits and vegetables were more scarce. These days, I just use a slow juicer because I'm too lazy, because it's a process to do that, but I share it because some people want to know the best way to get, save the most money, get the most nutrition, And because when I first learned about vacuum juicing, it was from Tom Dixon from the Blend Tech company. He invited me up to Blend Tech to demonstrate vacuum blending. And he's like, John, this is how I juice my celery. And I seen him do it because I would never consider juicing in a blender where you just got to put the blended mixture in a bag because I know it's oxidized to heck. And then when he made the celery juice, or I did it the first time and I compared it to a slow juicer, it's like I had a realization like, wow, I've been juicing wrong all these years. And I sell juices for a living, but I'm like, hey, no problem. I'll just tell people about this and they could have a choice. Because there's still benefits of juicing. I put everything in the chamber, shut the lid, walk away, and I come back and the juice is made. Versus this, you gotta pulse blend it, then you gotta squeeze it, and then you gotta pre-cut everything too. So once again, what kind of work are you willing and able to do? What's gonna make it more convenient for you to do it, and you're gonna actually do it instead of not do it. Like if I had to vacuum juice only, I wouldn't do it. Even though I know it's better. It's just too much work because I batch juice and I make like 5 quarts at once, and you can't make, when you're vacuum juicing, it's better for like drinking it right then and there than kind of storing it. Because, I don't know, depends on how much work you want to do, I guess is what it comes down to. All right, any other questions? Yeah, Eli.
Yeah, you might have answered it already, so if you didn't, my apologies. In terms of like preservation, so if you do vacuum juice.
Vacuum juice, okay.
Or
vacuum blending.
Yeah.
Either one, yeah.
If you did a vacuum blend for a smoothie,
yeah,
it's gonna last longer in the fridge than if you did just a conventional smoothie.
Absolutely. So very important. 2 components. You want to vacuum blend so you don't introduce the oxygen during the blending process, and then you're basically putting dissolved oxygen in the mixture. So you could think about it. In whatever smoothie, fruits and vegetables you're blending up have antioxidants, right? And when you put dissolved oxygen into the mixture that has antioxidants, that dissolved oxygen is basically, for lack of the scientific term, using up the antioxidants in there. That causes the off flavor. I'm sure you and many people here, like me, have blended bananas and water, or whatever, your banana smoothie, you drink it right after you make it. Tastes great, yeah, it's foam and airy and stuff, but then like, oh man, I made too much, and then you like let it sit in the carafe for a couple hours, then you come back, this tastes horrible. That's the oxidation damage, and that is increased. The rate of decay is decreased because of all the dissolved oxygen in there. So if you make your smoothie, vacuum blended, and then you want to remove the most air as possible out of the vacuum blender, and I have videos where I test different blenders and how much oxygen is removed, because some of them will remove more than others, and always more is better. And also the other tip is you want to actually continue the vacuuming while you're blending, for optimal. And then you want to vacuum store it like I show. So my friend Kailash, who worked for Ann Wigmore for many years and was also a long-term 30-year raw vegan, he does more smoothies and blended stuff than me, and he'll basically make vacuum blended smoothies, and then he'll vacuum store them for up to 5 to 7 days. Basically tastes the same. I know that the guy that's doing the fingerprints, you could ask him, because he saw this at another event, and he's like, John, I bought the void lid. And he's like, look at this picture, man. He's like, this is like Keat mango blended 4 days ago. He's like, it tastes the same as it did the day I blended it, or something, or whatever he did. It's really insane, like this technology, and how we could use this to our advantage to up our game, no matter what you're eating, right?
Right. Very cool.
Yeah. So smoothies, soups, sauces, everything, could last a lot longer. So you could do that much less prep. That being said, of course, like I will say again, it's always best to do the prep vacuum blend and then eat it immediately, because you're going to have still minor losses. But if it makes it easy and more compliant, and it's more convenient for you to do now because you're batching it, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And it does for me. Yes?
I was thinking about getting like a vacuum blender and saving money. Will you have any like discount code for like around November?
Yeah, it's on the paper. It's on the paper.
Yeah, so the question is, he's thinking about getting a vacuum blender. Do I have any discount codes around November? So the question I have for you is, what vacuum blender are you considering?
Right.
And what's your budget?
I was thinking about the Kuvings one.
The Kuvings, all right. So like what, the high-end Kuvings? Yeah. I don't recommend the low-end Kuvings, like it's garbage.
No, the one that's like automatic.
Yeah, so like I use the high-end Kuvings vacuum blender is what I personally use at home. It's like $2,000, but the big problem with that is it only has like a 1-year warranty, which I'm not a fan of because it was made for commercial use. And it's the easiest vacuum blender to use because literally you press one button, it basically sucks a vacuum in 15 seconds, it blends automatically, it releases the vacuum, and it lifts the cover up. So it's super fancy, and actually it has a really optimized blade design and uneven bottom of the carafe, and it grinds up things really well. So that's what I use at home actually. But I'll say that there will be, generally Kuvings, I don't know their sales, but generally around Black Friday, they usually have a 20% off. So it should be at least $400 off around Black Friday is my guess. So that's what I'd say. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would personally rather get like one of these lids. I'd rather get one of these lids along with like a Blendtec commercial. If you want the sound enclosure, they have a Blendtec, like I think it's like a Blendtec, is it 800 model or something? And then you can get this lid for much less money. It's gonna have a longer warranty. And it's not gonna be as fancy, but then I think that's that's what I would do if it was me personally, because I got the $2,000 blender for free myself. But would I buy it? I would tell you no. I wouldn't spend $2,000 of my money on it, even though that's what I use at home. I would tell you to buy this because and then if you don't even need the sound enclosure, just get like a used Blendtec motor base with low cycle count, like you could buy them on eBay for like $50, $75. Then you wanna buy a brand new carafe. That's very important because when you pull a vacuum on the carafe, you could basically blow out the seals faster because most vacuum blenders don't have seals designed for vacuum blending. They just have seals meant for regular blending. So like on the Trivest, this has a 15-year warranty. And if the seals go out, they're gonna replace it. But like the Void, they only warranty their carafes for like 1 year. But the Blendtec carafes, I visited the Blendtec factory and saw how they were made. They have actually the best seal for vacuum blending, even though that is likely to fail, but not as soon as just Chinese-made blenders or blenders that are just made not for vacuum blending. So that's what I'd honestly tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yes?
I was just gonna say, we followed your advice and got the Dynapro.
Okay.
And based on the 15-year warranty, and it's been great.
Yeah, no, the Dynapro, you can't beat the warranty on it. My one caveat about the Dynapro is that I don't like this vacuum pump. Like like if I vacuum pump with this and this, like this one's done like 3 times faster because this has dual pumps in there. This is a single pump.
We got your electric accessory so that we can plug it in to Dynapro.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, and the other thing is that this eats batteries. So this eats batteries. He has rechargeable batteries in there, but basically there's a battery eliminator that basically has dummy batteries, and then this plugs into the wall. So then you get actually more power. So as the batteries degrade, the pumping time increases, which is something I also don't like. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
I've kind of had this thing going on where I would get recurring staph infections, and I think it was related to the fruit diet, eating so much sugar. I know you had something similar with having too much sugar. So can you talk to reestablishing the gut biome to make sure that it's healthy? Because you examined a lot of vegetarians and they didn't seem to have the healthiest guts.
Right, yeah. So the question is like he gets reoccurring staph infections, and he believes it may be because of the fruit. So, I'm not a medical doctor, so I'll say see a doctor or get other opinions. But basically, I can tell you what happened to me is that my gut microbiome test, I had an overgrowth of this bacteria called Prevotella copri. And then I learned that Prevotella copri hates potatoes. I was like, oh, that makes sense. I haven't eaten potatoes in 25 years since I'm raw vegan. And then I got a gut microbiome test to kind of go, well, I got a gut microbiome test that also said that hey, you should eat these foods based on your microbiome to get more balanced and get it more healthy based on what they said. Then I verified that and it seemed pretty accurate. The other issue I had was that, the amount of fruit I was eating, whether it was just the fruit or also I was drinking fruit juice, which is now why I don't recommend it. I was also getting some headaches. This is actually this is during the pandemic actually. But at that time also I started eating a lot of freeze-dried fruit because I'm like, oh, fruit's healthy, and I'm, you can't get food in the store too much, and there's all this stupid crazy shit in the society. So maybe I was emotional eating because I'm not perfect. And then I'm like, oh, freeze-dried food is good. And then I was just eating too much freeze-dried food, which could have also caused me to have this issue, right? And then at that point, then I didn't handle my sugar as well as I used to. Then I was getting a headache, and the first thing I did was ask a lot of my friends, and then like, you know, I got chiropractic, I got like craniosacral, I got acupuncture, I went to chiropractors, like my headache didn't disappear because it's like, it's gotta be some structural thing is what I thought. And then like I went to a medical doctor because I had spinal meningitis, you know, it started, one of the symptoms was a headache, and I'm like, I gotta make sure it's not that again, you know, no matter what. And if something's gonna happen, I wanna catch it early. So I went to a medical doctor, and he's like, you have pre-diabetes. And I'm just like, there's no effing way I have pre-diabetes, man. I didn't want to believe it. There's no freaking way. And then like, well, actually I went to him first, and then I tried all the other stuff, it didn't help. And then like, then I learned about the microbiome. Then I'm like, okay, well, let's just try this microbiome stuff. Let's start incorporating some other healthy sources of carbohydrates besides fruit, right? Because I need to get my carbohydrates from somewhere. So then I started including like, you know, beans, you know, like high nutrient, other starches such as purple sweet potatoes, purple potatoes. I do purple rice, I don't eat white rice. And then by eating that way and just reducing the fruit a little bit, my headaches went away. And then my microbiome, you know, improved. So I think that, you know, I have friends, of course, that eat very high fruit diets, and they do great. You know, so I can't say against that, but for me personally, it wasn't working. And unfortunately, and also in this, you know, in our space here, sometimes people say, you know, fruit's the right thing. And some people told me like, oh, you got to cleanse deeper. I'm like, what? I've been doing this 30 years. Like I mean, maybe I could have water fasted and that might help resolve something. But like what I found works for me now, and I feel much more, I feel healthier because of it, basically, is what I'll say. And the other thing one of the side effects I will say publicly is that I do seem to get a little bit more tired at night, which to me, like when I was younger and I wanted to work my brains out and all these things, because you got to make money in our society, which I don't agree with, was good because I needed less sleep. But also now I'm learning that like maybe that hurt me because I had so much energy at night I couldn't get to sleep. So then I didn't sleep enough. And then, you know, sleep is, you know, all the new emerging research with sleep is so important. And now that I eat a little bit of cooked food, I get more tired at night, and I'm out and I sleep better. Because maybe it's because, I could surmise I don't have all the fruit sugar running around me. I don't know. So that's just been my experience, and I encourage people to be open to experiment. I don't encourage people to, you know, eat processed junk food, go out. I don't go out to vegan restaurants like, oh, John eats cooked stuff. No. I don't go out to vegan restaurants if I don't cook. It's like if you're a raw vegan, you don't pretty much eat out anywheres. And if I'm like the way I eat now, I still don't go out anywheres because if it's not prepared how I want it, like I don't get smoothies out, man. It's like I can't do it. I'm just gonna bring a watermelon and eat it, right? So yeah, I still prepare all my food at home, and if it's not prepared to my specifications, which is rare if I go out anywheres, I just basically pack things in jars and bring it with me. Actually, on the flight here, I brought, actually these 2 jars were filled with, this one was filled with lupini beans that were pre-cooked, and then I had, the other jar was my pre-cooked vegetable meal that I make. Because they're also, once you cook things, they're a little bit more stable. They don't go bad as quickly as like raw stuff. So yeah, yes?
Was your freeze-dried soup cooked?
My freeze-dried soup is mostly all raw, except for like maybe 2 or 3 cooked ingredients. Yeah. Because I still, my goal is to eat raw. My goal is to just minimally process my food as much as possible, or as least as possible, to maintain the most nutrition in the food, and also provide the most health benefits, you know. So especially with the heat processed food, you know, I'm benefiting I'm eating more resistant starch than I could easily do on a raw vegan diet. And you could do it on a raw vegan diet. I do have videos on resistant starch. If you want to stay raw, keep your label and eat resistant starch. There's ways to do that, like green bananas with the skin, and before they turn any color, they got to be deep green. Maybe like plantains that are totally green would be good to eat for resistant starch. Whereas if they start to turn yellow a little bit, I have studies where I've looked it up. Like the resistant starch just drops off dramatically, really quickly, as you know, as it turns sweet. So.
And that resistant starch keeps your blood sugar more stable?
Well, so the resistant starch is good for our microbiome.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't really digest it. Yeah.
Prebiotics.
Yeah, prebiotics, right. Yes, Patricia.
Can you explain why they call it resistant starch?
Why do they call it resistant starch? So the resistant starch, it's resistant to digestion by us. It's not digested by us, it's digested by our microbiome. That's the basic, easy way.
It's to help with appetite control.
Yeah, because it also fills you up. Yeah, it's fiber. It's basically good fiber.
All right, that's all the time we have.
All right, if you have any more questions, I'll be outside. Just catch me anytime.
You know how accessible John is, and so you can talk to him about anything. So, thanks, John Kohler.
All right, guys, so I want to commend you and thank you for staying to the end of this episode, because most people by now have bailed out. And so you are the ones that are completely committed to your health and trying to improve. And that's what I think life is all about, not just in your diet, but in your personal life and relationships and in your job and your work, always trying to improve and take it to the next level. So I really appreciate you guys and your commitment to your health to take it to the next level. And now I want to ask you guys a favor, right? What one concept did you hear me say in this past presentation that made the biggest difference to you, or that really spoke to you at this point in your journey? Don't be shy, comment down below. I really would love to know. This can help me tailor upcoming content, presentations I give at future events, to even dive deeper in and see what are valuable people so that I know what direction to take it. So I want to thank you guys so much who will do that as well. Also be sure to like this video. That helps the YouTube algorithm out. The YouTube has not been favorable to me and not promoting my videos as much as I would like them, or as much as they have done in the past. Also be sure to share this with other raw vegans to help take their raw vegan diet to the next level so that they don't fail and go back to eating meat and other processed and junk foods. Also be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes. I've coming in 5-7 days. You never know what will show up, what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the bell so you get notified as my videos come out. And finally, be sure to check out past episodes. Past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 900 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to you guys how to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables in the healthiest ways possible, as well as other plant foods, of course. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. I'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.